You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again. And as we begin to look ahead to Oklahoma State coming to town this Saturday, and obviously implications, high stakes remaining there for the Red Raiders as we approach the month of November. Want to get to a couple of things on a few different fronts here today. We'll hear again from Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire, as well as offensive coordinator Mac Leftwich, on what's been a popular subject of conversation this week among the Matador Mob and those Locked On Texas Tech commenters out there. That being what we saw last week offensively with Will Hammond at QB. Was it limited? Was it kid glovish? Was it handcuffed outright? And if he's factoring in again largely in, say, a weekend to come, could we see something similar or otherwise? Some thoughts from that from both Coach McGuire and Coach Leftwich coming up in just a moment. Also want to take a listen to Red Raider defensive coordinator Sheil Wood talking about the mission, I'm sure every week, but particularly this week as they deal with the adversity of a loss and setback there in the desert. But as far as that loss goes, Chris, welcome again to an Arlington or bust kind of week. Surprise, they're all that kind of week. As we move forward, presuming you can continue to stack wins. I want to get to a scenario where maybe even stacking all the wins you have left in front of you does not guarantee you a path where you want to be in a minute. But here it is. The margin for error is close to or at 0. I know as a 38-point favorite this week, you're kind of feeling like it's about pomp and circumstance, or it could be a given. I'll remind you, nothing is in college football, but here we go, Chris, and it's kind of a turning point we've seen before. Saw it in a similar situation last year where you take an L, and then all of a sudden it's 2 back-to-back to sort of send you in a different direction season-wise. Knock on wood, I hope that's not happening exactly that way this time around, but the margin for error is razor-thin to non-existent.
Yeah, I mean the age and experience of your team will need to come into play here, and it's funny because you're going to get a sharper, more motivated team because they had the result that they did not want in Tempe, Arizona, and it in many ways it may not matter just because of what you kind of laid out there, but this is for expanded playoff proponents or fans of the regular season of college football. This is like, and it's not portrayed as this, it's not labeled as this, and you can't really nail down that it is, but essentially these are playoff games for Texas Tech going forward here. This is the way it works. I mean, these results down the stretch here are going to be quite meaningful for you if you want access and a path to get to either Arlington and further. Because I don't envision a scenario to where you can get the wrong result. I mean, once and maybe, but I don't know if you want to live on that side of the tracks. I mean, I think you want to keep it where it's at. And then, and even then, as you pointed out, even then there is a scenario out there to where you still would not make it. Now that would be the extreme scenario. I think I'd take my chances there because I don't think that the other scenario, I just don't want to think that would come into play, but you just don't know. So, yeah, the sense of urgency, and that's what's tricky, like, because Joey, he was telling a story the other day about somebody he was looking to hire, and it was somebody I think he mentioned from Ohio State, and after they lost to Michigan, and everybody wants to fire Ryan Day, everybody wants to fire everybody in college football these days. It's crazy, and it's like no dollar figure, especially when it's not your money, is Yeah, like they just owe Billy Napier $20 million. Yeah, I mean that's fire him, get rid of him. I mean, like it's just insanity to me. Some of this stuff, like I mean, the first firing in college football a year ago was in week 8. We're already at like I think 8, 9, or 10 in here in week 8 to this point, and some of these are big jobs. And now you're getting people that are popping out, statements. Hey, we're fully committed to insert name here. If you're at Wisconsin or at Florida State or whatever, because maybe they don't want to pay the buyout. To circle back, everybody wanted to fire Ryan Day a year ago. Then he's went on to win the national championship. He's maybe coaching the best team in the country this year. Everybody wanted to fire Kalen DeBoer. 5 or 6 weeks ago. They may be a top 3 or 4 team in the country now. Point is, when he's telling the story about Ohio State, he's like, hey, we took this L against Michigan. Everybody was, and he was talking to this individual he was looking to hire and bring into his program. And he's like, what was the secret? Well, everybody was angry. Everybody was frustrated collectively. And you are trying to figure out a way to channel that and not use it all up against a team that you're a 38-point favorite over. I'd keep some of that in the old bottle and then serve the rest of that next week and the week after. If you can somehow, ration it out, if you will. But that's where you're leaning on the maturity and the experience of this football team. I mean, I think it's funny because like Reggie Virgil met with the media yesterday and he's like, you get asked about your first loss and you get asked about like being where your feet are and looking ahead. And he's like, this is all crazy to me because I've never played on a team that's been ranked. And here he is. He was like, a week ago, he's on the 7th ranked team in the country for the first time ever. So a lot of this is new to these guys too. So just a fascinating experiment that you've got going on here, man. You really is.
Yeah, and maybe it's just my Red Raider perspective, but in a way that makes me even a little bit more nervous as it relates to handling the first huge dose of adversity to the extent of it being a loss.
Yeah. However, let me just let me hit it from a different angle. What if you do have a lot of guys that while they are good at their craft, they've never been a part of team success before? And what if you get you do get, because I mean think about it, all these pieces that you pulled from and programs that you pulled from, it's not like, I mean that's what has been fascinating to me when people wrote about your portal haul and all those things. I mean Stanford, Mississippi State, Louisiana, Miami of Ohio, Northern Illinois, Charlotte. I mean, just kind of keep going there. It's not like you're pulling from, and so I think that's partly been why Joey has been able to get them invested in caring, because this is uncharted territory for a lot of these guys, and there's still a very much of a hunger and some motivation there, if that makes sense.
Sure. That also, though, I think is part of why you may be wondering how you handle such a big stage.
Sure, yeah.
I really feel like Tech has got far more on the roster that have been under these kinds of lights, although no one's gone through a season like this, at least as far as those who are already here. But I do think there are plenty of questions as to how you really respond, not just to a loss, but a loss where so much is built up behind it, and you're in a single-digit kind of ranking territory. Because it's a different kind of challenge, I'm sure, to handle. I do think, as we look ahead, at least this is what I'm doing, Chris, with my Red Raider eyes. I'm looking ahead to the magic known as Jovember. If we can just make it to Jovember and still have interesting things happening within the conference title race, I'll be feeling pretty good. And all you got to do is get past this one. But this one, I suppose, could be tricky in its own way, even though it's a number that says 38 as far as what's expected between these two teams. But, as I was talking about, you go through the early stages of Big 12 play last year and you get 3 wins, you take your first loss. It's a totally different competitive circumstance given what Oklahoma State is. But Baylor and Texas Christian then stack up on you. You got a really tough one that wasn't all that close first with the Bears, and then you got a tough one that was really close on the road. And all of a sudden, it just puts a different pale as you're hitting sort of the stretch run of the conference schedule over that season. So I hope you can get back to taking care of business here this week. And I want to bring to you some sound, Chris, because this is not just football related. I found myself more so getting back to business in my own life just as a result of hearing this motivational message from Red Raider defensive coordinator Shill Wood. First, today's episode brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else. And with a Mazda, you can make everyday drives feel like anything but, with smooth handling and intuitive controls. Plus, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like the Red Raiders, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode brought to you by Peloton. Peloton shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ, their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. I'm talking training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach your peak performance. And with personalized class recommendations, you're going to stay engaged with workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward by exploring the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. That's ONE Peloton.com. Result of hearing this motivational message from Red Raider defensive coordinator Shill Wood. But I wanted to bring a thought from him to the audience as he talks about the mission and trying to respond, and this following, of course, an opportunity to maybe learn a little something about yourself and your team following a setback in Tempe.
Our job as coaches defensively and as players is to go out there and get stops. And it doesn't matter whether we got to play 50 reps or 150 reps. You know, that's why we run to the ball each and every day at practice. That's why our guys prepare from a meeting standpoint as hard as they do and study going into each week's game. That's why they're in the training room right now getting extra work to recover so that, you know, for these, we got 5 ball games left. You know, we battled 7 times this season, and I've been really pleased with our preparation and our effort level. I think our guys are playing their rear ends off, and I think they did. We got, you know, I think what I'm probably most proud of, I'm kind of going off on a tangent, I guess, but we got back in that game. We took the lead, you know. It looked pretty bleak at a couple points there. I think in that fourth quarter we were down, was it 19-7 in the fourth? And we went back up 22-19, you know. And I wish I could have done, in my role, a little bit better job to help us, win that 4th and 2. But the resolve that our players had in that fourth quarter and that entire game to just continue to keep throwing punches and running to the ball and giving tremendous effort did not surprise me in the least. And I'm excited to see him do that again on Saturday coming up.
I love it. Things can look pretty bleak, Chris, pretty darn bleak, but you keep fighting. And I think at minimum you did find out you got a bunch of fighters on your hands as far as this roster goes.
He's Coach Wood's a dude, man. I just love his perspective. He just doesn't blink, and I think his kids or players they take that cue. He just stays locked in, and it's just crazy. I think we large in part know what this team is, but if you're gleaning stuff, it's all about results and the scoreboard, okay? But if you're gleaning stuff from what this team is made of, and kind of to the point, the conversation we were talking about prior to you playing that audio was about how are they going to handle the first loss. I think you can learn a lot about the fact that it was kind of you're kind of flat, or you're kind of not near as energetic as the opposition, who's just bouncing around all over the place like crazy and excited over the smallest little thing. And you're kind of like, this is like frustrating. We've been blowing everybody out, and it's a bit tougher today, and it's just not really going our way. The ball's not going to bounce our way. The referee's not going to do this. This guy's not playing for us. Like, this sucks. I mean, all the thing. Pick one out of the hat there and play it. But and yet you were hard to kill. Like you were getting kicked. It's like, is he still moving? I don't think so. No, yeah, he's still moving.
He's moving.
I mean,
we got a boss.
That's right. That's right. So, just to kind of show that spurtability and like have that 15-point, like, boom, just like, whoa, because it was 19-7 midway through the fourth, to where I'm sure that, like, and you have to, okay, you know what? I was about to give credit to Arizona State, but you know what? I'm just not. I'm done doing it. I've been over backwards with it. So forget what I just said. I was not going to give credit to Arizona State. Bottom line is you're hard to kill, and you still have a pulse. You're not dead yet, but I think you showed some fight with a lot working against you, and you don't have your best, and the other guy's, throwing his best shot out there, all the stuff. And I think it's telling that, and as Shield said, we got him to a 4th and 2. The game is on the line in the one play, and you get the quarterback scrambling, and he's like, okay, is he going to run or throw it? And you just kind of, you put your kids in conflict a bit, but razor thin margin there. But I just love Coach Wood, and his guys will bounce back. I mean, they'll be just fine. Yeah,
the personality is just enjoyable to begin.
Oh yeah,
no doubt about that. And I'm thinking we're going to get a big response out of that group in particular. Hopefully the team overall. I do want to flip to the other side of the line of scrimmage though before we get out of here, Chris. But first, can you just give me a minute or two telling me about what sounded sort of like a not so fast, my friend, when thinking about winning out? And if you were able to somehow pull that off, could things then be back in your control when it comes to the Arlington or bust theme? But there is a scenario, long odd or far-fetched, whatever, where that's not the case. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that it would behoove you to go 5-0 here down the stretch. Right.
Agreed.
I think that if we want to rank these wins, they're all going to be important. But like you start putting them in tiebreaker perspective, the BYU game as it stands right now is going to be the most important one. Then I think we all know what you're staring at, and when you go to Manhattan, Kansas, whether that's recent history, whatever. But in total, you're really going to need to do this. And I was asked the other day, well, if you still control your own destiny. If you win them all, you'll be in Arlington. Almost, but there is one scenario that is still present as we are talking about it now that could play out to where you would be 11-1 and you would not be playing in Arlington. Now, maybe at this point you have an opportunity as an at-large berth for the playoff, especially if you've looked really good and finishing up 5-0. What is that scenario? Well, as we know right now, there's 2 undefeated teams left in the Big 12, and that is Cincinnati and BYU, like we all thought, like we all predicted, very, very ably so back in the summertime. I know that if you were listening to this show, we called it. I'm kidding. So those 2 teams are going to play. So really what you're looking at is if Cincinnati were to win out, and I'm going to get to that in a second because I think it's highly unlikely that they will win out. In fact, I think it's much more likely that they will have 3 conference losses as opposed to none. Okay, get to that in a second. But the other, scenario would mean, because Cincinnati and BYU play, so somebody's got to take an L. Or if Cincinnati beats BYU, and we've already said that you would beat BYU, BYU is essentially out of the equation at that point. But then there's this pesky Arizona State issue that you've got. They've got a tiebreaker over you, and their schedule is so Arizona State winning out, Cincinnati winning out, you win out, you're left with nothing, all dressed up, nowhere to go. Cincinnati, though, here's what you're looking at. They don't have a gimme left. It's kind of an empty calorie in some ways. undefeated conference start. Okay. But they've still got, they will host Baylor. They're at Utah. They will host Arizona. They will host BYU, and then they're at TCU on Thanksgiving weekend. So Baylor, Utah, Arizona, BYU, TCU. All of these teams have been competitive and all that. So we'll see kind of what Cincinnati, because they've beaten up on UCF and Oklahoma State in the last couple of weeks. They get Iowa State with their corners and their kicker out. And then they won a game at Kansas, which kind of started this thing. And then obviously Arizona State still got a game against Iowa State. If you're rooting for stuff, if you're into this kind of thing, if you're rooting for stuff, as painful as it may be, you need to root for the Houston Cougars this coming Saturday night, and you need to be rooting for Iowa State to heat up. They could do a lot of damage that would benefit you if they start reeling them off and winning some games, because they do play they do play Arizona State. They do play BYU, I believe, and so you need Iowa State to kind of heat up a little bit.
Interesting. Thank you for spelling some of that out. We'll just go ahead and handle business, hopefully, and we'll leave it to some of those cards if we have to. But approaching it, yes, with 5 more wins in the pocket.
Just win, nice. Man. Yeah. Just win. I mean, I'm serious as I can be when I say this. If you were to go 11-1 and not make it, I couldn't have any frustration in my heart at all about that. Like, I don't know what anybody was. You weren't going undefeated, and 11-1. I mean, you've had 3 double-digit win seasons in the last time. I mean, what is it?
Oh, you mean just frustrated tech-wise? I thought you meant like national landscape-wise.
Well, yeah,
definitely. You'd be a fool to be mad at it from a tech perspective. But how about if we get left out of everything, and you're an 11-1 team?
Well, I mean, and that, that would be a bit that obviously would be a bit frustrating. But I'm saying if you go 11-1, however you want to slice it, and the only loss is a 4-point loss on the road at the previous Big 12 champs, I mean, I just don't know how anybody could have asked for much better than that. And yeah, sure, you could ask for undefeated, but it's like, I don't care how much money you spend. I don't care how healthy you stayed. This is just not what happens in the sport in this day and age these days. Even at 10-2, which we're saying you really can't afford to do, is like this is not really where you've been ever in previous times. So yeah,
no question. And if you're a viewer or listener out there who had to be told that, go ahead and leave your name in the comments. We're going to mail you a tack hammer so you can hit yourself in the head because you are a valued listener or viewer. Yes. Chris, before we get out of here, I want to get back between the lines really quickly because this has been among our valued listeners and viewers, a really interesting conversation and a popular one. The most recent mobster I was texting with, our guy Royce, about it, and shout out to the others who I was going back and forth with. There's been plenty of you, but most recently, Royce asking about what we saw from this Red Raider offense with Will Hammond as a QB. And there's some perception that it was kind of handled maybe by the OC with kid gloves or that was a limited play sheet. First, today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly feel the call of the stadium. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last-minute tickets without the stress. And with the money you save on tickets, you can then splurge on foods, drinks, gear, and more. Gametime makes it all possible. And best of all, Gametime makes buying tickets fast and simple. Prices on the app actually drop the closer you get the first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. And if you're like me, you get tired of endless scrolling trying to find the best deal, and that's why Gametime's Zone Deals is the go-to move, since it automatically picks the best seats in your section for you at the best price. And as always, you can get a view from your seat right there in the app. So before you buy, you know exactly what you're going to see. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use our code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use our code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, Locked on College, for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets at the lowest price, guaranteed. that it was a limited or kind of handcuffed offense, if you will. So I want to get your thought about maybe what we saw play out after we take a listen to Red Raider head coach Joey McGuire, as well as offensive coordinator Mac Leftwich, being asked about pushing the ball down the field and getting it going with some shots, or maybe not, with Will Hammond at the helm.
One, we've pushed the ball down the field more than we have the previous 3 years. And I think that's a change of the offense coordinator. But that was one thing that we have to do. I think, Will threw a great deep ball to Coy. But there was other ones out there. There's a touchdown to CD that's a crossing route, and, he kind of gets pressured, and, we've got to do a good job of making him feel good when he steps up to keep his eyes downfield. He ends up running on that ball, and if you go back and look, he'll be the first one to tell you he should have kept his eyes downfield, and it's a touchdown to Caleb Douglas.
Talking to him, that's one of the areas, that we wanted him to improve the most. I thought he was patient, and I thought he took what the defense gave him, and at times was maybe a little bit too patient, and want to see him, cut it loose. Had a couple shot plays called, that we checked down or he scrambled for yards, which is good, and he's keeping us on schedule. But when the defense, provides opportunities for us to throw the football down the field, we got to be able to take advantage of that. So I got to do a better job, coaching him and making sure that, he's ready for those moments.
Will Hammond isn't why you lost against Arizona State. He wasn't perfect. I think people, you're this is just what happens, especially around here in Lubbock, Texas. Whoever is in charge of calling the plays is going to get a lot of the blame. Whoever's the quarterback is going to get a lot of the blame. They may both deserve it. Neither may deserve it. But that's just what happens around here. And the head coach, which at times previous, the head coach was the one calling the plays at various times in the past. Will's a young kid. I had somebody be like, man, all those folks that were talking about Will Hammond, like I was one of them, but like I guess I need to be careful what I wish for. And I'm like, okay, so now you're already moved on to the next guy. I mean, is this what we're doing now? I mean, well, he's lost the 2 games that he started. Okay, yeah, bowl game versus Arkansas with a weird roster and everything, and then it's a tough situation to get placed in. Yes, he had a lot of good pieces around him, but a very motivated Arizona State team on the road and all those things. Will's going to be just fine, okay? But he's young. I mean, and this is what happens with young quarterbacks. They are – and it's – say what you want, but it is different when you start a game and you're going to start it and you've prepared for as much, and the other team kind of knows this too, versus coming off the bench and running in there and just away you go. These are different dynamics. But so what you're hearing, I guess, to wrap it up, is there was a few things that they missed that were down the field, and that they would like for him to take that shot, or that he missed a read. And this is what happens, though. You get sped up, it gets a little noisy. You feel like you haven't had some success, and so it just becomes easier to stay in a comfort zone underneath and off to the side or whatever. And I mean, this is what you hear Coach Leftwich saying. I've got to coach him to take that shot, to make that throw, to be comfortable with, to give your, and Reggie Virgil told the media yesterday, after reviewing what we looked like, we weren't probably as sharp and as detailed as we needed to be with some of our routes and the different things. And I think that they realized that they had somebody that was throwing some serious punches back at them, and they maybe didn't punch back as hard as they needed to, all theoretically, of course. But anyway, that's what I see and saw and heard.
I'm Coach McGuire pointed out that he felt like they've pushed it down the field more than they have over the last 3 years, and the numbers would bear that out as far as some of your explosive plays. Just been kind of wondering, is that OC related, pass catcher related, QB related? Maybe just the answer is yes to all of the above. But I'm curious, just to wrap it up really quickly. We're feeling pretty good, I think, on Monday about this being a return back to Baron Morton this week. Is there any trend in either direction? As I know publicly we're hearing a lot about day-to-day and reevaluation and things, but how do we sit here just between us, Chris?
Well, you'll get your first availability report this evening officially, and I think that there's QB watch on both sides of this game coming up this weekend. So I know this is a shocker to everybody. It feels like this is what we did last week, but here we are. I still am going to be surprised. I don't know if I would be, I don't know how we want to describe these words, if I would be stunned and shocked and all that, but I'll be very surprised if Barron doesn't play this week in some capacity. Whether that's starting and he's 100% or I don't know. I just remember the commentary about you want him in rhythm, and I just know how important this Kansas State game is going to be. And I don't know. So I'll just throw that out there. But again, if he's not healthy and he's not cleared or whatever, then that's not what will happen. It'll be Will Hammond, and away we go, and then we'll move this conversation to next week. I also know that from the Oklahoma State standpoint, Zane Flores has been out for the last couple of weeks. They are using converted wideout Sam Jackson at quarterback. It appears that Flores could show up on this injury report this evening and be maybe closer to questionable or probable than he would be out, and so they could end up being using a quarterback, platoon system with both of them. So just kind of keep your head on a swivel, because we could see as many as anywhere from 2 to 4 different quarterbacks, I guess, this weekend in Lubbock, Texas. I'm just laying it out there to you. Although I guess technically it would be 3 quarterbacks and 1 receiver that's playing quarterback would be the or as many as if I'm being honest.
Every team's dream, a quarterback platoon. That's what you're wanting as you're wrapping up October, no doubt about that. And you bring something up that I hadn't really thought about, but yeah, if there was any lingering absence further, tough place to slide back in, Manhattan, Kansas against Kansas State. And I don't care what the record says. That'd be, let's go ahead and get back in a rhythm. Let's get back in a rhythm. Let's just do it this weekend and love it.
Again, I'm not, I'm not sitting here in Hollywood, but if I have the pen and they say, Chris, here's the blank script, fill it out as you wish, sir. The ideal scenario this weekend is Baron Morton plays really well. You put this game away late second, early third, and he is in said rhythm, and you're good to go. And then Hammond comes in and finishes it up, and maybe he can get back into a rhythm as well, and you get your win. You get your rhythm, and away we go. And then you say the end, and then I hand it back to and they're like, well, this movie sucks. Like I wouldn't pay to watch this thing.
We got more points than that. Yeah, I'm fine with it.
I was going to say, but it's my movie, and I enjoyed the butter on the popcorn and the soda water that came with it, and so this is it's my script, damn it. But anyway, I don't. Hey man, that's my perfect script. And off to the side, I would say I love Iowa State for the next 2 weeks, because they do. They have BYU and Arizona State in Ames, Iowa for the next 2 weeks. So so hand them the Cy-Hawk Trophy. I'll never say a bad thing about Matt Campbell and his bent hat or anything like that.
I doubt that. You really hate that hat. I doubt you can live up to that promise.
That's right. I'll save that. I'll save that for another script and another movie down the road or whatever. But yeah, that's what I would offer up, I guess, this weekend from a tech standpoint for sure.
All right. Well, sort of an uncomfortable sentiment to end on, but possibly pulling for some of these that he has mentioned is what would be required, or at least handy. So consider it as you would and make your own decision. Number 1, win. If you're a Red Raider out there, just stack wins. That's all we're looking for, and do what you can do over these final 5. Chris, appreciate your time as always, man. Enjoyed the conversation, and we'll see you for the next one.
We love you all, people. Keep hope alive, and we'll talk to you next time.
Get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. Appreciate the everydayers for always being out there. And, of course, the Matador Mob. Hit our show notes and find a link to a free 14-day trial if you're interested in joining that crew. Your direct line to Chris and myself with one-on-one text sent straight to your phone. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks as always for the time. We hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.